Hey, welcome. Today, we're going to dive into something really cool from the management legend Henry Mintzberg. We're going to uncover what he called the hidden physics of your workplace.
You ever wonder about this? I mean, you walk into one company and you can just feel the buzz, this amazing energy. And then you walk into another and it feels, I don't know, just like a bunch of people waiting for the clock to hit 5. Or, even worse, it feels like a total Cold War. Well, yeah, it turns out there are these powerful, kind of invisible dynamics going on under the surface. And the answer is definitely not in those neat little boxes and lines on an org chart. See, Mintzberg's big idea is that we need to stop looking at org charts and start seeing organizations for what they really are, a system of competing forces, a dynamic arena where different pressures are constantly pushing and pulling, shaping literally everything from the inside out. So, how many of these forces are we talking about? The magic number is 7. That's it. Just 7 fundamental forces that basically define the shape, the feel, and ultimately the fate of every single organization out there. So let's dive in and see what they are. Okay, first up, let's meet these 7 forces. And you should seriously think of them like your company's DNA. It's the fundamental code that makes it what it is and dictates how it acts. So what exactly are these forces? Well, they're these constant pressures, always pulling the organization in different directions. And we're going to break them down into 2 groups. First, we've got 4 forces that basically create 4 distinct blueprints for how a company can be built. Then we'll look at 3 universal forces that kind of act on all of them, almost like a catalyst. All right, so let's jump into those 4 main blueprints. Mintzberg saw each one as having this dominant force at its core, like a gravitational center. It just pulls the entire organization into a certain predictable shape. Okay, this table breaks it down perfectly. Let's just walk through it. First, you've got the personal enterprise. Its driving force, consolidation. Think of a classic startup founder who needs to keep their hands on everything, centralized control. Next is the programmed machine, your classic bureaucracy, and it's all about efficiency through standardization. Then there's the professional assembly, like a hospital or university, where the key force is proficiency, meaning individual expertise is king. And finally, the project pioneer. Think of an innovative tech company where the driving force is collaboration because you need it to innovate, right? You can already see how each one of these forces creates a completely different universe to work in. So you might be asking, what comes first, the form or the force? Well, it's a bit of a chicken and egg thing. It's like the force encourages the organization to take a certain shape, and then that shape gives the force even more power. They just feed off each other, creating these really distinct worlds, each with its own kind of laws of physics. Okay, so now that we've got the blueprints, let's add the next layer. Beyond those 4 blueprints, there are 3 universal energies. And I mean, they flow through every single organization, no matter what its shape is. These are the forces that can either hold the place together or threaten to rip it apart. And here they are, the big 3. First, you've got the force of separation. This is what pushes different parts of the company away from each other, to create their own little worlds. Think different divisions in a giant corporation. Then you have culture, the great unifier, the glue that pulls everyone together with shared beliefs. And finally, there's conflict, the force that pulls people and teams apart through politics and disagreements. And this is so important. These 3 forces aren't just things that happen sometimes. No, they are a constant undercurrent. They're literally in the room with you for every single meeting, every project kickoff, every decision. Always there, always at play. Okay, now we get to the really juicy part. This epic, constant tug of war between the 2 most powerful forces of them all, culture and conflict. And this slide right here just lays it all out. So on one side, you have culture. This is the glue, right? It's what pulls everyone together. It creates what Mintzberg calls communityship. It's that magic that happens when the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. That 2 + 2 = 5 feeling. It gives an organization its spirit. And then you have conflict. This is the force that pulls things apart. It leads to political games, it challenges how things are done, and yeah, it can pit people against each other. To really get the power of culture, you've got to hear this classic story. So, you ask 3 bricklayers what they're doing. The first one says, "I'm laying bricks." The second one says, "I'm building a church." But the third one looks up and says, "I am creating a monument to the Almighty." And that's it, right there. See, the first 2 guys are employees, but that third guy, he's a member of a community. That's what a powerful culture does. It transforms a job into a mission. Okay, but let's flip the coin and talk about conflict. A lot of the time, conflict shows up as, well, political games. And I bet some of these are going to sound pretty familiar. You've got insurgency. That's when people resist authority from the ground up. There's sponsorship, where you latch on to a senior person to build your own power. Empire building. We've all seen that, where managers just grow their teams for the sake of influence. All these games people play to get an edge.
But here's the thing, and this is super important. Conflict isn't automatically a bad thing. Sometimes it's actually a necessary corrective. It can be almost Darwinian, right? Making sure the strongest, most capable leaders actually rise to the top. And it can be the only thing that forces a company to change when its culture has gotten too comfortable. And this is where it all comes together, in this balancing act. A really strong, healthy culture, it acts like a container. It can actually absorb the shock of political fights and keep them from blowing the whole place up. Those shared beliefs, that sense of community, it's like a force pulling everything back to the center, holding it together even when things get rocky. But, and this is just as true, it works the other way too. If a culture gets too stiff, this is how we've always done it, then a bit of healthy conflict might be exactly what's needed to crack it open. It can prevent a culture from becoming stale and totally irrelevant. It really is all about that dynamic balance.
Okay, so what do we do with all this? How is this useful? Well, this whole framework, it's not just some abstract theory. It's a real-deal diagnostic toolkit you can use to actually read the hidden dynamics where you work. At the end of the day, a healthy organization is all about balance. It's about maintaining this dynamic tension between all these forces. You absolutely need culture to pull people together, but you also need some constructive conflict to challenge and renew things. You need separation so teams can have autonomy, but not so much that the whole thing falls apart. It's a constant dance. So really, the biggest takeaway here is that you now have a new way to see. Once you can spot these 7 forces, consolidation, efficiency, proficiency, collaboration, separation, culture, and conflict, it's like you've been handed a decoder ring for your own workplace. You can finally start making sense of the invisible physics behind why things happen the way they do. So I'll leave you with this question to think about. Think about where you work. Which of these 7 forces are the most dominant? Do you feel the pull of culture more than the push of conflict? Is efficiency king, or is collaboration? And maybe the most important question of all, are they in balance?